The most awful wet rainy January day, just above freezing, so I thought I would show you how to service a basic old Singer or any vintage sewing machine. And as you can see here, this is electric, but it wouldn't make any difference if it was hand. And this is interesting. Now, let me just show you this. I just put this on full speed. I press pedal right down. You can see the machine's hardly turning. That's full speed. And if I take the belt off, just unclip the belt, listen to the motor. You can hear that the motor's got the power. So what we're going to do is run through some simple steps for servicing your vintage sewing machine. Hang on to your hats. When I'm oiling a machine, I tend to stick these little tubes in that I get off the spray cans into my oil nozzles, because you can put a single drop of oil, you can just see it coming down there, just a single drop of oil coming down the tube. And that is really important, because you don't want to over oil a sewing machine. That's worse than no oil at all. Can you just imagine someone's face when they're sewing a nice piece of white material and you get a lovely black greasy line? Yeah, so just a little tube like that, any oil bottle, it doesn't matter, and use high grade mineral oil. I've got a load of different oils that I use up there, but the majority of my stuff is basic sewing machine oil. I'll tell you something of interest. Back in the Victorian era, the main reason that whales were nearly hunted into extinction was for light oil, but also sewing machine oil, because it had that amazing whale oil, didn't dry up, didn't gum up. And lucky enough, they found synthetic oils just in time, which saved the whales. Right, let's get down to business. Every early sewing machine from, say, the 1960s down to the 1860s, there were oil holes. The first sewing machines that came along didn't have oil holes, but within months they put oil holes, because that was absolutely essential. So if you look at a sewing machine, you will find little holes, and there is a little hole pretty much where every bearing will be. There'll be a little oil hole, and that's what you're looking for. So your first point is find the oil holes on your sewing machine. Before you start oiling anything though, we've got to get rid of the fluff. And it doesn't matter if you blow it out or you use a vacuum cleaner or whatever, but you've got to get rid of all the bits of fluff, because the fluff holds on to the oil. And so we're going to clear all around the mechanism first, and I'll just start to take, so the first thing we're going to do is take the needle plate off, and we're going to take the side plate off, which is just 2 screws there. And then we're going to get, I use a vacuum cleaner, I just have a little vacuum cleaner by my workshop, so I just use the nozzle, and we're going to start sucking in a second. One of the dirtiest places on a sewing machine is underneath the needle plate. That's where a lot of fluff gets caught. So find a screwdriver that fits the screws. I use a magnetic tipped screwdriver. I've had that since I was a kid, and there's just usually, most needle plates are held on with 2 screws on older machines. There's one at the front and one at the back, and so we're going to undo those screws and have a look what's underneath. I always magnetize my screwdrivers is like here, where I've dropped the needle bar screw, the needle plate screw. You can just lift it out so easily, and it is absolutely brilliant just for holding on to screws. And if you want to magnetize the screwdriver, just run a magnet along it about 20 times, and that will magnetize it, and that will be very useful. If you ever resharpen the tip, then you need to redo it, because heat destroys magnetism. Right, now it's time to get the vacuum cleaner out and have a good old clean. Start vacuuming all the side, get all the fluff out. I'm going to go all around there, and I'm going to use a little paintbrush as well. So I'm vacuuming and paintbrushing. Then I'm going to lay the machine back and get underneath, and so we can get into all the corners and we can get into all the mechanism. So we use the paintbrush. Hang on, I've got to just change hands here. And so just a basic, just lay that back, there we go. Just a basic paintbrush and a vacuum cleaner, and between the two of them you spend 10 minutes brushing out every bit of fluff. I'm not going to turn the vacuum cleaner on because it's going to make hell of a racket, but that's what I'm going to do next, and get everything spotless. 10 minutes is all you need, and you should have every bit of fluff off the machine. Underneath the machine, if you move the hand wheel, you can see what things are moving. So it's pretty obvious that that wants a little drop there, and it's pretty obvious you can see what needs a drop. So this has got oil holes on it, so you can see. Now I'm just going to put a little drop there, little drop there, little drop there, and you're just going to go over each part that moves with a drop of sewing machine oil. Again, don't over oil it, it would be the biggest mistake you make, but just a little drop on every moving part. These machines love oil. It's like grooming your pet, really. So make sure that's all nicely oiled there. Oh wow, that's starting to move from a machine that was hardly moving at all. And again, up we go into the top here. We've got a little drop there. You can see now how my small nozzle is just so good. Just a little drop there. This is the main shaft, so I can put 2 or 3 drops in there. Quite often, actually, this is a Singer 99, it's a little tip, that peg gets pushed into the main oil hole. So always check your main oil hole is free and that peg's in the right hole. And then you've got another 2 holes on this model, just there and there. And then we just turn the machine round to get to the side. And again, once again, you can see all the oil points everywhere it's going to move, and the 2 bits of metal are going to rub. And a little drop on the needle bar, and just a little drop here, there and everywhere, and just keep going over it until you think you've got everything, and you'll see the machine start to respond. I mean, it's just saying thank you. And down in the shuttle again, you can see all the moving parts now. Of course, with no fluff, it's a lot clearer and a lot cleaner. And just a little drop, and again, that's pretty much it. So there, wow. Look how that is just spinning already. And all what that is a simple clean out. So now let's put it back together and see what we have. Mention a little tip. When you're vacuuming, keep all your small parts away from the vacuum cleaner. Because if you're using a powerful one, like I'm using a Dyson, all those little bits will disappear in a heartbeat, and then you'll be cleaning out the fluff bag to get them out. The girl's oiled, not cleaned yet, but oiled. And look at the difference already. And all this has been done just in a few minutes of being careful. And now we're going to get on with the cleaning of her. And I give it a good run like this. Make sure the needle's tight if you run the machine, or take the needle out and tighten the needle bar clamp. And give it a good old spin, because that flicks the oil everywhere inside and it throws it out as well. Because now what we want to do is remove as much oil as we can, because it won't all soak into the cast iron, or as Singer's made them with pig iron, it won't all soak into the iron. So we've got to get rid of any surplus oil. Now I'm going to give it a little spray with a bit of cleaning fluid and give it a wipe over. Interestingly, if you just see there's a little hole, because this machine originally would have had a knee lift speed controller, which you could also use with your arm. And that's because men coming out of the armed services with injuries, they could use their knee or their arm or their elbow to sew with. And of course, people forget that the armed forces trained a lot of machinists. So they came out, they became upholsterers and tailors, you name it, and they went into their professions trained by the government. I would always strongly advise, if you have an electrical machine and you're servicing it, get it pat tested, portable appliance testing, because that only costs you a £5 from a local electrician, but it could save your life. Lucky enough, I can do my own pat testing, but it's definitely, of course with the old vintage hand machines, that's irrelevant. But with these old electric ones, you've got a metal motor bolted to a metal machine, so this could all become live if anything went wrong. So get your machine tested. Now we're going to put some thread on it and see how the old girl sews. She's going to think it's her birthday. I always put a little felt underneath the cotton reel. It stops it bouncing around and it stops it spinning too fast, so it makes it quieter and smoother. And I just love Gutermann polyester thread. If I use a Gutermann polyester, I don't even have to think if it's the thread that's giving me a problem. My God, look how beautiful she's starting to really shine. She looks like a little princess at a ball. Last job is setting the tension, and the most important job. You can't set the tension till the machine is smooth and balanced and just turning over beautifully, because the only thing a sewing machine does is make a stitch. So if any part of the mechanism isn't working properly, it's all going to come out in your stitch. So get your machine perfect, get it serviced like I've shown you. read an instruction manual. You can download them. Actually, I've got a brilliant book on tension adjustment on Amazon along with my other books, but that's very, very interesting. This is your main tension adjustment, but before we adjust any tension, we're going to give it a really good run. I always use light thread after I've serviced a machine. I mean, I haven't done any stitching yet, but when I'm doing the stitching, I can look down at that thread and see if it's picking up any oil from anywhere. And if it is, I'm going to run it till it is spotless, because you cannot sew until there's not a drop of oil left anywhere near the mechanism. Well, we're nearly ready. Next, the final test is adjustment and giving it a good old run. The machine's all done, all serviced, all clean, set and oiled, and what we're going to do now is we're going to give it a really good run. What I do is I run it as fast as the old girl will go, and I check that the thread comes out clean, and I will just keep sewing until that thread comes out beautifully clean, so there's no more oil left on the machine. Incidentally, if you ever want to reverse on this machine, just lift the foot up just like that. Can reverse and darn all day long. And then when you're setting the tension, which I explain in my booklet on Amazon, pinch the fabric and run. You can do it, if you were blind you could do this perfectly, and feel that the stitch is the same top and bottom. And if you feel it's the same, when you look at it, you'll see that is an absolutely perfect, almost invisible stitch. That's what you're working on. And this Little Singer 99 will do a stitch better than any sewing machine in the world. That's why people still keep them going. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found a few useful hints. Bye for now.